Hello and welcome to the programme. I'm David Holmes. My guest tonight is Glen Ganaway from New York. He's a healthcare consultant, an interfaith minister, a spiritual counsellor, and a teacher of A Course in Miracles. And he's speaking to me from his home in Brooklyn. Well, hi Glen, and a very warm welcome to the programme.
Greetings from Brooklyn.
All the way from New York City to Manchester, the wonders of this modern technology. So we've quite a few things we can talk about tonight. Maybe we'll just start in your early life. You were born in Anchorage, Alaska.
Yeah.
And what are your memories, very early memories of your family life? What of growing up? I know that later on you travelled quite a lot because your father was a chaplain. What about the very early? What are your recollections of your very early family life?
Well, because we moved a lot, because we were sort of moving from town to town every 9 months, every couple of years, my childhood was really about a close-knit family. And summers my dad had off very often, so we would leave for month and 2 month long camping trips when I was little. So I have a real love of being outdoors, and a lot of my early memories are in cars,
Right.
traveling,
Yeah.
which is lovely. I remember one of our first trips. We moved from Fresno, California, to Jacksonville, Florida,
That's a
which
long
is
way.
the entire length of the United States. Okay, from one coast literally to the other coast. So we were, of course, went through the southernmost easy route where all the highways are, instead of like the northern route, which has less highways. All the crayons in my crayon box melted in the back of the car. You know, this is 67, 68. So my parents weren't running the air conditioning, being of a certain income, all the way across the thing with 4 kids, or with 3 kids at that time. But I remember we had coloring books and things to keep me busy. But because my crayons had all melted together, we had to break. My mother, with a knife at the picnic table, broke the things the best she could. So all the coloring books, and I learned to color and things by not being so concerned with the images or the color that it produced. That all the you would make things by all the colors, and the colors would start streaming together because all the wax had melted, and that kind of has sort of stayed with me about it's mutable. All things are kind of mutable, and we had a very, very close family, very close to my mother to this day, and so and my parents. So I had just a really it was important that we were close knit. We did everything. We really did everything together.
You probably travelled a lot more than most people that age, and
Absolutely,
and that gave you an insight into life, maybe that not many have. It was a good start to your life. Were your parents religious? Were you brought up in a formal religious way?
Well, yeah. I looked at it as a formal religious way, but when I talked to my friends, I realize now that we were very progressive. I didn't know this at the time. I think everybody. When you're a little kid, you think everybody lives that way, right? And you think your teacher lives at school, and So, My parents never hid their religion behind another in another room. We prayed before we got in the car, before we did the trip. We had a prayer. We prayed before the meal, before we went into the restaurant. We didn't pray in public, and so everybody would look at us. We prayed before we went into the restaurant or the picnic or whatever like that. We prayed together, silently, apart from everybody. so there was my dad. My memories of the father being preparing his sermon on the dining room table because that was the biggest like
Yeah.
open surface and everything. My dad didn't have an office, um, so there was the Bible, probably another translation or two or three translations of the Bible. Then there was the Greek and the Hebrew or whatever was going on with how that was translated. Dictionaries, and there was his legal pad. He was worked on legal pads. There was
Yeah.
my dad's legal pad as he scribbled out what he kind of wanted to say, and it produced a really, really extremely erudite, boring speech for a child or anybody under 50 in the audience. And, my father's not a charismatic speaker, but that's kind of the house I grew up in, with those things being the normal. That's just the normal rhythm of praying 3 times a day. My mother meditated during the day. So that was.
Yeah. Was that
So,
were they a particular denomination? Were they Baptist?
yes,
Or, yeah.
yes. My father's ordained Southern Baptist, but we had cards in the house.
Yeah.
We went to dances.
Wow. Right.
We went to movies. My father had beer on Saturday night.
Wow. Well, how outrageous is
So,
that?
so I say Southern Baptist, and people go, "Oh my gosh," But I was in that culture. We
Yeah.
were in the Southern Baptist Church. My father and my mother were progressive
Yeah.
people in that church, and I remember asking my mother not too long ago. Well, I don't know, about 10 years ago, why in the world did you stay in the Southern Baptist Church? Because what I know now, you're Southern Baptist, but not what we know culturally as Southern Baptist.
Yeah.
And she goes, it is best to reform. If you care about something, you'll stick around and reform it from within.
Great words. Yeah.
You don't just work at hammering at its destruction.
Yeah. Wow, that was a good way to be brought up, and because that was. I had a fairly formal religious life, and I found a lot of benefit in that, and sort of protected maybe to some extent from the outside world when that was appropriate, and I can relate to that, and so did that go on for quite a while, and then you weren't travelling so much, and then did you. I mean, and most children, I suppose, they take on the religion of their parents. Did you feel there was something in that for you, or there's more to it? Did you start to question as you were older?
Oh, I loved the church. I loved the songs. I loved the people that was going on. I like the smell of the church. I really do. I like the hymns. I was youth pastor of my Beers Mill Baptist Church.
Right.
I followed up and became youth pastor.
Yeah.
And when I was little, he goes, "Oh, there's a little preacher, That's I know who he's going to be, Chip off the old, because I have the advantage, or I can see that I look exactly like my father.
Right.
I look like I'm this little. Mini me. At that time, I was a little mini me of my father, and people were going, "Oh, you're going to be the preacher." So that has been projected on me all my life.
Yeah, he was, a positive influence in that way. in that way, but because a lot of people maybe go through a conventional religious situation and then start to question it, and that's not always well received. But from what you've said about your religious upbringing, it was quite not controversial, but I should say progressive is probably a good word, because I want
to say it was authentic to my parents.
Right.
They were trying to express something, not trying to conform to anything.
Right.
They were living by what they knew to be true, whether it was right or wrong or things like that. But I mean, I'm gay. I came out when I was of the closet to my parents when I was 13 years old.
That's a lot earlier than most.
Yeah, and I was journaling at 9 years old about it. So I've always been this
Yeah.
precocious sort of kid,
Oh,
this sort of precocious person, and so I did have a big falling out with the church. I
yeah.
was out of the closet when I was youth pastor. I wasn't out at church
Yeah.
when I was when the church sort of found out I
Mm.
was gay. I was summarily removed from all the documents.
Really.
You know, done.
Written out of the whole
We're
thing. Yeah.
written out of the whole thing. You know, uh, so it's like I don't know what they did with the programs that I was, the physical programs, youth night with Pastor, with Glen
Yeah.
Ganaway as the featured speaker.
Yeah. So you met a lot of, or with a lot of hostility, maybe more so in the church than outside it, or a bit of both. Yeah.
About the same.
Yeah.
About the same.
It's a big thing to
Um,
do for someone that's so young to be
yeah,
open about their lives.
I have no idea.
Very honest.
I had no idea what the consequences were or anything like that. Well, because I guess I erroneously believed that, well, not erroneously, it eventually was the truth. But if you live your truth, everything will be okay.
Yeah.
My parents modeled that for me. Tell the truth.
Yeah.
What's important is the truth. So
Yeah.
I did that even when people didn't want to hear the truth, and I took a lot of heat for it. But there's a peace in knowing that there's a peace in that integrity that can't be bought or sold or can't be traded away.
But the price is high. It's always high, isn't it?
Can't. Yes, I lost. I didn't have any friends in junior high. I had no friends in high school. Well, actually, that's not true. I could count all my friends through junior high, high school, and college on one hand, and I wouldn't need half my fingers.
Really. Yeah. That's just the way it was. But so did you? I know you. I read in your bio you dropped out of college. Was that partly because of the hostility you needed to get away
Oh
from
yeah,
that?
yeah. Two reasons. Partly was it was certainly I went to William Jewell College in Liberty, Missouri. After the first semester in the dorm, I was removed from the dorm. Uh, you know, and I was being harassed. So
Yeah.
I was like, hey, I'm willing not to be in a room full of 2,000 men. So they got me an apartment off school with a bunch of other misfits who weren't able to live with other people. You know, problems.
Yeah.
People that are severely medicated and severely, what friends might say, exquisitely damaged.
Yeah.
I was put into the exquisitely damaged, eccentric, a little household off campus so that we could be coddled and, wouldn't, it was okay. So Asperger's and highly functioning Asperger's and kind of the odd misfits and things like that.
Did they
So
hope you would see the error of your ways?
well, it was so funny. It was like it came with a lot of privileges.
Yeah.
I had my own apartment. The school paid for my own apartment off campus. I mean, it was like oddly, it was like, oh, this is a punishment. I felt, the only other kids that were allowed to live off campus were ones that were associated with the fraternity, and I was living off campus when I was a freshman
Right.
in thing because I was too dangerous. Or it was too dangerous for me, or it was too dangerous for them. I don't know. So it was a combination of being really hostile. Yes, I could only go to the cafeteria in the morning at a certain time, and during the lunch at a certain time, and during a dinner at a certain time, in order not to be physically threatened and harassed. And I knew the times to be on campus and not. I knew, kind of how to go and where to go, and so. And after 2 years, I had taken all the classes I was interested in.
Yeah.
uh,
So you learned to live with it, really. But it must have been hard. It must have been a difficult time away.
yeah, I look back on it, and sometimes I don't know how I did it. I don't know. There was something else moving through me and making that away, whether where I couldn't see it. There was somebody walking. I look at it back now and I said, there's somebody walking before me that made all of this sort of possible. I didn't think about it, and I made okay grades.
Right.
But I don't remember. I remember very, very, very little of it. I look at my college transcripts and I go, I don't remember most of these classes. I don't remember most of the classes.
Yeah. Have churches and colleges changed at all over those years? Do you still?
Yeah.
Yeah. Have they developed a tolerance or more of a tolerance? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. But they had to get sued.
Yeah.
You know.
That's right. And of course, the arts was a big thing for you. And I read that you began reading the Beat poets and Burroughs and Ginsberg. How would you describe the influence those people had on your lives?
Oh, huge, huge. I realized that that I wasn't alone. That that what I could see and understand about the way society worked and what was going on wasn't just my little insight. You know, it was a larger thing that had been critiqued for a very, very, very long time.
Yeah.
And the lineage that comes with the really amazing queer poets and spirituality from down through the ages is a real blessing. It is not.
Yeah.
It is not a curse. It is an absolute blessing. Yeah. Who I am as a really queer smarty pants devoted to God is a blessing that I adore. But the flip side of that is that I didn't think I had a very interesting life, so I needed to get involved in this into this grittier reality. So I went headlong into alcohol, drug addiction, junkies, prostitutes, and all of that, because it was I had a romantic ideal of it through the limited reading I did. Limited being you read a novel and how gritty or how real it is, it's still words on a paper and created in my head. It's somebody else's experience of over 10 years, and I absorbed it on the weekend and thought that was cool. Naive.
It was you at the time.
So I did that for about 5, 6, 7 years.
Where did you find the strength to come out of that? Because you you went quite into a difficult time and quite a serious time in your life.
Yeah, I did.
Was there an aha moment, something where you were rock bottom and then said, well, there's got to be something better than this?
Well, I was sitting in jail.
Right.
Classic. I was sitting in jail, and I didn't know whether I was going to go back to the job. If I was get out on time, or I was going to go spend drug possession. I'd been arrested. I wasn't being treated well. Respectfully. Don't you know who I am? I was in jail, and I just kind of made a vow. It's like I'm never going to be here again.
Right.
This isn't going to be about. I'm not going to learn how to be in jail. Yeah. I'm willing to learn a lot of things about a lot of cultures and how to act and behave and what the norms are, because I'm good at that, changing cultures and growing up. Look around and find out what the norms are, imitate them, so I'm safe.
Yeah.
But I looked at jail and I said, I don't want to learn this.
Yeah.
I don't want to do this. And I didn't. I went and I chose. They said, you can go to jail for 3 months, or you don't have to go to state treatment. But you're mandated. You're going to make a choice, but it's mandated. You're going to go to treatment, or you're going to go to jail.
Yeah.
I chose to go to state-funded treatment, and that really turned it around for me, because I met people who had a spirituality that was more of their own, instead of something that they imitated well.
Yeah.
And although I had grown up with many, many spiritual experiences, that I have had a relationship with God, but it was kind of the relationship of God, of somebody else's version of God. I hadn't really unpacked God for myself, although I would have told you I had. You know,
You see it in a different perspective now. Yeah.
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 And I had that white light experience
Mm.
in talking with friends in treatment. Had that sort of major white light sort of experience where
Yeah.
we were talking about what are you going to call God, you know?
Yeah.
And I wasn't willing to I was like, well, I can say what I want, you know. I'm under lockdown. It's like, and you can't do anything to me. I felt safe in that regard. I said love. I said, if I'm going to be about anything, to learn anything or be a part of anything, then my God is going to be love.
Yeah.
And that really under, deep desire, deep willingness to have love be what I strove for and how I understand it changed, and the white light experience and all of
That's
that.
great, because you must have met a lot of people who, I mean, you chose not to be trapped and you moved on, but you must have met a lot of people who maybe felt they were, and
Yeah,
it's difficult maybe now, or maybe if you see people like that, you've been there, and does it give you a greater understanding now, and more able maybe to help people who are in difficult circumstances, because you
yeah,
can see it from their point of view?
yeah. I have a lot of great compassion for wrongheadedness,
Mm.
For really identifying with with my mistakes.
Mm.
I wanted to be seen. I had a great pride in my street name. I had great pride in being tough and savvy, you know, and smart, and be able to outsmart, make a good drug deal, and be able to spot the drugs in the room quicker than maybe somebody else, or be safer
Yeah.
in that milieu,
Yeah.
and have an air of class and stuff. What my street name was, TJ, because I was waiting tables in a nice restaurant, so I would always go through the worst neighborhoods in a tuxedo, and I would score drugs and be in parties in a tuxedo
Wow.
a lot of times.
Yeah.
So I had an identity. So I understand how proud one can be, and how much of oneself we can really lock into something that's destroying
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
And it's like, don't ask me to give away the only thing that's ever made me feel like I belong.
Mm. Yeah. So did moving away from that lose you friends in a sense? Because a lot of people that you met in those times that hadn't moved on, and you chose to, so that gives you some distance, doesn't it? I suppose.
Yeah, I know one person from that era. Everybody else that I know of or heard about is dead.
Wow.
I only know of one person, one woman, who I met later, and at the Gaia Retreat Center,
Mm.
we served on the board together. Who kind of got out, who kind of woke up in a way. I think her family snatched her out and put her on a farm out in the middle of nowhere, and she really, she really didn't have any way to run out or anything. So it was, but she took the opportunity, like I did, when it was given her.
Well, that's good. Because
Everybody else is dead, murdered. Usually,
Yeah.
I know people reading of your friends that have been murdered in the paper. It's just like, oh my God, I know who that is. I used to consider her my friend.
Yeah.
That's sobering, as they say.
Was that the product of a life with drugs, or was that the main reason?
Drugs and prostitution.
Yeah. Yeah. Really heavy situations. And I did ask you before. It said in your your bio that you renewed your relationship with your parents. Had there been some distance for a while, and you came back to a better situation with them?
Yeah, I was. You can imagine me in college and stuff, and kind of being out of sorts, and bringing home boyfriends, and trying to be accepted for all of this, and being rather sort of like angry and militant, reading all my queer theory and.
Excuse me,
I'm good.
The joys of live programs. It's just iTunes decided to start up for some strange
I
reason.
understand. Yes, I was quite. I didn't talk to my parents for almost 10 years. I read them the right. I brought home boyfriends and they treated them like crap. And I said, "You will not do this to me."
Yeah.
I didn't speak to them, wouldn't answer their calls or anything for many years. Reconciled that with them, with a kind of like saying, "This is how it's going to be with me. This is how it's. I mean, I'm not gonna, But if you want a relationship with me, then this is how. I don't let my friends treat me like you treat me.
Yeah.
So this is either gonna work, or I'm gonna disappear, and you're never gonna see me again. I promise."
Yeah, it must have been
So
comforting to you to have that coming together after. Did that carry on? Have you maintained that?
Yes. Yeah. See, because of that, I unpacked all. I got into therapy. I unpacked through this. Got in, reevaluation counseling, which I love, with Harvey Jackins, and got into therapy. Was able to heal some wounds of my childhood, and was able to come back and talk to my mother about this is what I think happened. This is what went on, and everything like that, and was able to sort of work with her and my father to an extent about what they were experiencing during these traumatic moments in my childhood, the things that I felt damaged, and things, what their perspective was. And we hammered it all out over about a weekend, and yelled and screamed and cried, and I blamed and forgave, and over a long period of time. Thank God my parents were willing to do that.
Yeah, not many were, and that's great.
I don't think so.
You must really treasure and really appreciate.
Yes. I have a relationship with my parents that I'm an adult.
Yeah.
I'm a fully fledged, friend. I can call my mother Jewel, and it's not ironic. Right. I can call my father Samuel, and he doesn't go, my son's calling me by my first. After a certain point, we became peers. We became. She's always going to be my mother, and she's always going to be ahead of me in experience and things like that. And that's something that I want. Those people I want in my life. I need people who've lived farther than I have. Yeah. Please.
Yeah.
So I want those relationships. I cultivate my mother's wisdom, and she cultivates mine.
That's good. So was it in Kansas City that you joined the Unity Church?
Yes, I did.
Right.
Unity on the Plaza.
Right. Because I've had brief contact with them, and I find them very accepting, and that's rare in religious circles. It's usually, as you and Roger have experienced, a pushing away. Just they remove you, from that situation because they can't handle it. But Unity appears to me to be it's like an interfaith situation where everyone's accepted. Would that be correct assumption?
Yes. Yeah. I would describe it as more like socially progressive.
Yeah.
Not so much interfaith, although they don't separate them. They've taken Christianity off a pedestal as being the only path. Because orthodoxy in every religion does that. Buddhism is the only thing that will enlighten you. Taoism is the only thing that'll get you home. Every, there are Course in Miracles people that says, the Course in Miracles is the only truth that there ever was.
Yeah. That was.
So I think that's what Unity has done, has unpacked the orthodoxy, and they're actually willing to talk about the theological elephants in the room, like. How come there are no women and there are no black people in this church? And, we only speak one language and we only, it's like, why?
Yeah.
Why is it that way? Is, unpacking truth from culture. I think Unity has been willing to do that
Yeah. Have you maintained your association with them? Or is it an ongoing
I have a
thing?
lot of friends that are in Unity.
Yeah.
I joined the Unity Church here in New York. I think I'm probably on their books still. Unity of New York. Glen Ganaway is a member. They would say, look him up. Transferred my membership when I moved to New York. That's how Roger and I dated through Unity.
Right.
We went to church, and that's kind of what was our first couple of years dating.
Yeah.
We went to church together, um, which I'm kind of proud of.
Yeah. Were you involved with the Radical Fairies?
The Radical Fairies is where I found my really true, my own authentic spirituality. Was with my relationship with God really bloomed and blossomed, and that's kind of the metaphor even I use today. God is trying to bloom each one of us. And we want to be bloomed. We're trying to be the most, be all that you can be. We're all trying to do
Right.
this, and if it's peaceful and spread joy and peace, and
Yeah.
uh, there's the Radical Fairies have the politics and the aesthetics and the spirituality that are
Right.
probably closest to my heart. I
Right.
live like a radical fairy. Um, my aesthetics, my sense of beauty, and are that in that genre or in that
Yeah. So
yeah,
very, very
yeah.
close community life, and that must have been very useful to you for and Roger for a long time. That a family, someone where you belonged and you can be yourself. And
What more than yes, it is true. They do develop that really quickly. That kind of family. If you're a radical fairy, that's a pretty short list as far as like the larger gay queer diaspora thing. That's a pretty narrow thing. So if you're there and you're willing to call yourself that, you're embraced.
right.
Uh, but the radical fairies really allowed me to try on many different personalities, to try
Mm.
on many different ways of being and walking in the world with nothing but more, 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 coming from the peanut gallery.
Yeah.
Uh, so, when you so there's what it developed in me was, or what it allowed me to develop in myself was my unique authenticity.
Mm.
Because authenticity is the coin of the realm.
Yeah.
They will let you be. There's this quote from Oscar Wilde, and that's Oscar Wilde. It's Quentin Crisp, who says, he goes, the goal of life is to look deep, deep, deep within you and be and be very honest, but be who you find there. And I
Right.
guarantee you that if you find the most boring little man in the world, that if you are the best boring little man in the world, that when the only party anybody ever wants to go to rolls around, somebody will call you up and will say, you know who we should have at that party? That most exquisite boring little man.
The power of positive thought there, definitely.
Yeah, it's like who you are is what's going to bring you your joy.
Yeah.
Not trying. That's what I did in my childhood. Tried on somebody else's God. That's what I did in school. Tried on somebody else's philosophy. I love Kant and I love the existentialists. I love Beats and this queer lineage that comes through. I adore these things. But they're a part of me. They're not really. It's part of the mosaic that I'm moving through.
Right.
I'm all of those things and not those things and much, much more.
When I was reading about your time with the Radical Fairies, you also talked about the work of Harry Hay. I haven't heard of him. What can you tell me about him?
Harry Hay is the kind of the spirito, politico, socio founder of the Radical Fairies. He kind of said we are radical fairies, radical being root, of course, and fairies being a bridge between the mystical, what you can't see and can see. And fairies are neither good or bad. They're mischievous, and they can. Some cultures are really like they're demons. Some people qualify fairies on the demon end of things. Some people qualify fairy on the angels end of things, and you could make a case that both of that's true. But it's post gender, and fairies are kind of supernatural, androgynous, magical, inherently magical. Not you have to go through this or say these magic words magical, but inherently magical. Magic happens by their will. So, and they don't live outside of nature. They live inside of nature, inside of the laws of God.
So,
I would call inside the laws of God.
how was your life affected when you got together with Roger? And what influence did that have on you when you two got together?
I spent 11 years with a man named Landon, who I thought I loved. But it came time when I moved to New York, I realized that we didn't want the same future. Landon and I didn't want the same future. So I loved him enough to say, I can't. You deserve to have the future that you want. You deserve that, and I'm going to leave.
Right.
I got my heart broken when I moved to New York. I met this man, yoga teacher, and really super smart guy, beautiful. And I just thought, I've finally fallen in love. I fell in love with Gordon like I had never fallen in love with anybody before. But he broke my heart.
Yeah.
He didn't want us. He didn't want in us the way I wanted in us.
Yeah.
And I hit this love rock bottom that said, I finally had to say, I'm never going to do relationships like I have done them in the past. I've been on both ends of this sticks. I've broken a man's heart, and I've had my heart broken. I'm never going to do relationships like this ever again. I put together, did that classical New Thought thing where you write down everything that you want in a mate. Everything. The perfect guy is this and this. I had 4 or 5 pages. Then I honed it down to 2 pages, and then I honed it down to 1 page, and then I honed it down to like 10 things. And for 2 years, almost every morning, at least every time I went out to a date or a party, was going to go out, for cocktails with the friends, wink, wink. Whenever I did that, I would look at these 10 things and saying, I'm only going to go out with somebody who is on this list. Yeah. I'm not going to. And I was honest, like I'd never been before about what I wanted, and put it in order about what I really wanted. And the very, very, very top thing was who had a spiritual life, a spiritual practice, and a spiritual understanding of what was going on. That was the absolute top of it. And when I met Roger, I wanted our relationship to be so healthy, or healthy, and what it could be from the very beginning, that I would not tell a lie. I wouldn't tell not a white lie, not anything. I told him every single problem I had I thought the relationship was going to have. You're older than me. You've got all this stuff. I said you're already gray-haired. You're not tall enough. Of course that wasn't even on my all my objections.
Yeah.
I said these are the problems these are the objections I have to the relationship. I've got to find a way of doing of with you because I love because I'm growing in love with you, and I don't want these things to be unsaid or unknown. I'm not willing to have them on the back burner and fester to come out. So we kind of had, for the first year or so, kind of a rocky start. During that relationship and our early dating, not only were we going to church every day, and I insisted that we pray before every meal, but I had never had my own apartment. I said, I have to have my own apartment. We got together, I met him, and then I had my own apartment for 2 years while he's waited for me to have my own apartment experience. And I said, I'm not going to see you every day. I'm not going to talk to you every day. I need to do these things, and we will be together. We'll be together 3 days during the week. But I'm not going to talk to you other, other than that, because I can't,
Yeah.
And he did, but I was always fully present when I was there. And I've told Roger, I said, but you will always know that when I'm with you, it's because I want to be with you, not because I have to be with you, or that there's, and there isn't. I'm with you because I've evaluated everywhere I want to be, and this is where I want to be. There isn't a better option.
Right. That's a great way to be. But you have a lot in common, obviously. I've only just met you a few weeks ago, but you have common interests. And, that's one of the requirements, isn't it, for a long-term sort of a stable situation, to have your own space, but also to have a lot that you share.
I didn't want to change him. I didn't want to be changed. I didn't want to have to be somebody else. I adore Roger. I absolutely adore him, just the way he is.
Right.
If he never changes another thing and wants to do the Yolanda Gospel Hour exactly as it is every month until he's 80, I'm going to be there, with him if that's what he wants to do. I'm really interested in Roger. And we don't compete.
Yeah.
On anything.
You complement each other. Yeah.
No interest in painting. Well, not no interest. I love painting. I have no interest in drag. I have no interest in singing. I'm not a singer-songwriter. I don't paint. Zero competition. Zero. But we have completely compatible desires and motivations and goals. He's in love with truth just as much as I'm in love.
And give each other space as well, which is very important, isn't it?
Yeah. He says, I don't. He'll say, I've got to be at the computer for, 4 hours or something. I've got to get this thing done. Can you go do the grocery shopping while I do this alone? I said, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's good.
Please. This is. I don't. So. But we established that together at the very beginning.
That's good. Yeah. So, Glen, when was your very first contact with the Course in Miracles?
Gosh. In college, in about 1982, 83, probably 1982, Course in Miracles, and read a description of it. And it was supposed to be a book channeled by Jesus. And in 1982, after getting kicked out of the Veersmere Baptist Church and going to a religious school that my parents made me go because it's their alma mater, I wasn't going to listen to one more thing Jesus had to say. I was done. Jesus had the first 18 years of my life, and Jesus was not going to have another moment. No more. No more attention. I'm changing the channel. And I didn't discover it. I didn't really go back to it again until I heard it again in sort of the milieu when I was going to Unity, probably again, and was like, that's just too Jesus-y for me. A channeled Jesus book. Oh, yeah, right. That's going to be, like, talk about fringe, right? I said, I don't want to be, it's like, that's a new level of Jesus freak. I'm just not willing to, go there. And it wasn't enough. So it was really, early 2000s, 2003, 2004, really, that I actually picked it up and opened it and read it for myself rather than looking at the people that were reading it or reading descriptions of somebody, reading descriptions about it that somebody I didn't know had written. So that's kind of, and I couldn't. Not only could I not put it down, it kind of helped me complete the healing for my childhood. For it kind of gave me back uh, the religion. Well, gave me back the teachings of my childhood. Gave me back all the hymns that I loved so much. Gave me back the joy and innocence I had as a child in the church with my mom and my dad when it was about love and being good and sharing what you know and laughing and singing and being together. Uh, uh, Innocence. It gave me back gave me back an understanding that I had never lost
Yeah.
my innocence
It's obviously
and
had a very profound influence on your life and
healing.
and it's still going. It's an ongoing thing, isn't it?
Yes,
It's obviously
if it's real, it is ongoing.
yeah.
It grows. If it's real and it's growing and it's living, it's an expansion thing, as you know. So yeah, and I read it 3 times, cover to cover.
Oh well, that's because it can be hard work. I'm sure you've heard that before.
I know. People say that all the time. He goes, "Oh my God, the Course of Miracles. I just can't do the Course of Miracles. It's just too, it's too dense. It's too, well, I like Shakespeare. I like Homer and the Iliad, and I kind of like all that classical stuff that Helen liked as well, and that the Holy Spirit used to drill down her understanding of the Course of Miracles, and that's also what the thing that I appreciate Jesus does is he unpacks a lot of those old biblical verses,
Yeah.
and things like that. So that's interesting for me as well, because that's what I say is it's such a good toolbox for the for the Old Testament or for the Torah and for the New Testament. It really is for the Apocrypha and the Gnostic scrolls. It's really a good toolbox to unpack a lot of the truth around those ideas. I don't consider myself a Christian. I don't know. I am interfaith. I have a mantra practice that I'm dedicated to. My faith, and I love Sanskrit. I like the really supra ethical practices that the Buddha taught.
Yeah.
Especially the way he separated out the teachings from. You're going to be, if you're a monk and you're interested in being a monk and taking the renunciant life, this is how you learn of the truth. But if you're not a monk and you're going to be a layperson, then I'm going to teach you this method over here. He taught in 2 different ways depending on what people wanted from him, and the questions that he refused to answer are really very ethical questions, and it's the same questions that the Course of Miracles refuses to answer. So that's really very, very, very interesting.
How did you get into teaching the Course in Miracles? What happened to
people kept asking me to explain it. Right. If I understood it and I loved it so much, he goes, "Oh yeah, so what does this mean? Oh yeah," and I began to really talk about it. I said, "Well, the way that the Course in Miracles would say that is blah blah blah." They said, "Oh well, that's really interesting. I didn't know that." And it says in the Course that if you that you teach what you want to learn. And I, for one, would love to walk around with the mindset that wrote the Course in Miracles, in which when I am upset, my first thought is, "Oh, I must be saying something wrong," and not, "Oh my God, I have to change something in myself or somebody else." I'm excited because I've discovered a wrong thought. I've discovered a wrong belief, a wrong idea. It's like, oh, this is actually a really good thing. One of my things I say in my teachings from the Course is like, if you knew the gift fear had to bring you, you would run toward it, and you would embrace it. If you knew the gift on the other side, you would embrace and look for everywhere you're uncomfortable. You would seek it out.
Right.
And that's a very Buddhist notion.
Very much so. Yeah, there's a lot of that in it. And the how long have you been actually teaching now? Has it grown? How has your teaching grown in those times?
I've been teaching formally for a week in a group of people that have asked me to teach for 2 years
Right.
straight. Now, and I have been teaching. I've been part of a group for 4 years, 5 years for 5 years, in which we get together and kind of share. And I'm kind of the the we've all a lot of us have we've gone through our group chose to do the Course in Miracles for a year, so everybody's very familiar with that. But I'm kind of the go-to Course in Miracles person in this group. We have another gentleman there who is kind of the go-to Charles Fillmore group. We have another woman there who does Cameron's the Way of Mastery, or Cameron's the Artist's Way. So we have a lot of different perspectives. So that's kind of teaching. And before that, I did about a class every other week from a group, a very in a real formal way.
Yeah.
But I generally, in a spiritual setting, asked kind of people to do leadership whenever I'm in a quasi spiritual setting. I'm kind of the one that go, would you like to pray? That's it. You know, it's like you're in the go. Let's. It's just like they kind of everything just sort of leans in. So how long have I been teaching? Formally, A Course in Miracles for about 4 years.
Right. So as you know, we're myself, Roger, and yourself are working on this project for actually you doing a class for our channel, but also to be uploaded to YouTube. How would you feel like that? Do you have a different approach to that? Because you've been teaching for a long time, and because that obviously allows you to get your message across to a wider range of people. What are your thoughts on where that can go online?
You're asked. I think the question is how do I feel about having an hour class up on YouTube?
Yeah, was that something that
I think that would be great, because I would like to put together some real specific ways and unique ways that I kind of put the course together, which is a little bit better than kind of the audio I do on Thursday nights.
Yeah.
And I do an in-person class, but it's a 2-hour class. You know, with discussion and songs and things like that. So a pointed 1 hour.
Yeah.
You know, you and me, one-on-one kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where you know, Roger and I want, you know, tag teaming, whatever that is, I think would be a real unique way of putting it out, because I like to use images and concepts, because each of us learn in a different way. I try to give a practice. You know, there's because I'm also a certified integral mentor. So what happens is that I like to use all 4 quadrants. I want to use your mind, your body, the structures that we live in, and your relationships, all as a part of this lesson. That's why I teach it in an integral. Teach A Course in Miracles in an integral way, or in an interfaith way. So doing it on YouTube for an hour, I would be able to say, this image of Napoleon the First, painted in 1806 by Ingres, is a really good example of a super successful ego. You know, this is who we all want to be. This is absolutely gorgeous. This is gorgeous. This holds up, and there's good things that this comes from this. You know.
Yeah, one of my favourite passages, a very short passage from the Course in Miracles, what I've seen so far, is seek not to change the world, but seek to change your mind about the world. To me, that sums a lot of it up, and that's from Kenneth Wapnick. Yeah.
It's because the problems we have is is not what's happening; it's our opinion about what's happening.
Yeah.
I have a good friend who says,
Hi, Roger.
Hi, Roger.
Wow.
I have a good friend who says my opinions aren't reliable.
Hmm.
So it's like, yeah, I argue with reality. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, it's something that I know I'm going to get a lot out of because I'm interested. Anyway, I'm interested in you know situations that can enhance my personal growth, and I know that the people who watch your channel and the people who watch YouTube will be helped as well. Because I mean, I've been aware of Course in Miracles for quite a long time, but just lately I've encountered a lot more references to it in the media. I don't. It just seems to be in the UK anyway, a bit of a resurgence. The books on the market, the audio, and all that. There just seems to be it's coming back into the public attention more than it was in the past, maybe.
That's kind of good news because there's a new crop of beautiful people that have discovered the Course in Miracles, and the media likes to like Marianne Williamson is gorgeous.
Oh, she's great. I love her.
Yeah, and she's brilliant. So the media, and she's interesting to look at. She's charismatic. There's that can't. Well, I don't like Roger. Roger's one of those people that people just go, just look. Is just one of those people. Marianne Williamson is another one of those people. And because A Course in Miracles is now kind of in its we're in its first 50 years, right?
Yeah.
73, 74. So we're in its first 50 years. We haven't even gotten 100 years out from this book yet. So we're now kind of into maybe the third generation, or second or third generation of A Course in Miracles. So the people that are coming up now have a life experience where there's been a lot more information available. In the 70s and 80s and even into the 90s, the information that A Course in Miracles spoke to didn't have a place among all these other things that had been going on for a long time. It hadn't risen to the thing, and now Jews and Buddhists and Christians and Taoists are saying, "Oh, yeah, A Course in Miracles has come up because people in those traditions are familiar. They're swimming in the same thought system, the same milieu, so they run into people." And teachers are there's a lot of teachers, a lot of Course in Miracles teachers.
Yeah.
I'm going to a convention in April for teachers, and so there's a lot of teachers, a lot of different teacher styles, but it's new, it's brand. Then the media opens up to a lot of new, not a lot of new, young, and beautiful faces.
Yeah, that's right. Because the media, obviously, technology's changed a lot. We have cable TV, we have the internet, and lots of opportunities to learn. And I remember, quite a few years ago when I was in Australia, I used to watch a lot of American TV, and there was some cable. I think it was called Manhattan Cable. Years ago, and,
interesting.
It was just it's great because TV just used to be conventional, but now there's a lot more opportunities for people, to focus on a particular channel that represents their interests. So it's encouraging that those opportunities are around. So maybe in the few minutes we have left, I'll just talk a little bit about your call to serve spirit by you leading to a seminary. What inspired you to go through the ministry like that? What was your reasoning behind doing that?
I decided I was going to listen to the voice and do be authentic and kind of listen to the voice instead of I couldn't not anymore. I kind of had to admit that that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to be a teacher and a speaker. And to deny that any longer was getting sort of destructive. I was really annoying my boss and my employers and my friends. Even my family. I remember Roger saying, "Stop teaching." Just we're in this conversation. Just stop teaching. My friends. I don't need to. This isn't for me. You have to get it out, and I understand, but I don't want to be lectured anymore. I don't want to be taught anymore. So I had to come up with, and I had to admit that that's what I wanted to do. That's what I wanted. That was an authentic expression, and I had to unpack my own preconceived notions. I had to unpack my own preconceived notions of what it meant to be a teacher, because
Okay.
my ideas, the models of spiritual leadership that I grew up with and saw around me were problematic,
Yeah.
and I didn't want to be anything like that at all, and I rejected that model. I can't be a spiritual leader because I don't want to be one of those people. I don't
Mm.
want to be the guru who sleeps with his students. I don't want to be the egomaniacal control freak that I met in some spiritual teachers.
Yeah.
I don't want to be obsessed with fame and fortune and number of followers and who I know and who looks to me for guidance.
Yeah.
I can't. If that's what a spiritual leader is, if that's what I've got to do, I don't want any
Mm.
part of it. If I have to speak in a certain language, if I have to wear a certain robe, if I have to have a certain haircut, if I have to, I can't do it. And
Yeah.
nothing I really ran across was saying, goes, oh well, yeah, we'd love to ordain you, but
Mm.
you have to say the Nicene Creed when
Mm.
you, when you get ordained. And I was like, I'm not saying the Nicene Creed, I
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah. Well, you've obviously had a very positive influence on people's lives with your teaching, and that must be really
Yes.
satisfying and a very useful thing to know that, because you're meeting people from all groups in
Yeah.
society. They're coming together at your Course in Miracles,
Yes.
and is that just, has it kept widening? Did it sort
Yes.
of falter, and then, or as a level of interest kept up? Do you notice more of an interest now? I think it's a wonderful way to thing to do with
Um,
your life.
as Yes, it has developed. It started out as 3 or 4 people in a house up in Harlem.
Mm.
And it moved. We're now on 72nd Street, and there's 50 people that have asked to be included in
Right.
this. So usually about 10 of us show up of the 50 that have asked to be a part of this community, asked to be
Yeah.
kept informed about. And I correspond some of them just through email with it,
Yeah.
and I do kind of a one-on-one email. And some people have. I got a couple people who come to me for spiritual counseling
Mm.
now that I didn't have before. So it has developed as I've been willing to be humble about it.
Yeah.
The more humble and the more honest I get about what I'm doing this for
Mm.
and what my goals are in this, the the more use I think
Yeah.
I am. It's about being useful.
Yeah. You've obviously come a long way from the early days. You've overcome some considerable obstacles,
Yeah.
and it's great that you can do that, because you met a lot of people that didn't make it,
Yes,
and
I
you
did.
have done. So
Yes.
it's a great story, and I'm sure it's one that will inspire other people. And thank you very much for being with us today, Glenn.
I really appreciate you, and thank you for all that you do when no one's looking.
Okay.
I appreciate your practice.
And I'm looking forward to developing this project. We'll get together, Roger, yourself, and me, and sort something out soon so we can actually make something happen. I'm really keen to do it. I'm sure you are too.
Absolutely.
So we'll stay in touch, and I look forward to continuing this conversation and seeing where it goes from there.
Excellent.
Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Glenn.
Say hi to everybody.
Bye. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.